All right, delta method. So we're going to speed run this. Okay. So let's say you get a question. It says to use the delta method on, this equation, y equals x squared plus 2x plus 7. So delta method is actually very simple. It's only 3 basic steps. As long as you understand the steps, you can answer any delta method question. Easy peasy. So step 1, what we're going to do, so we have y equals this equation, which is the same as saying y equals f of x, right? So what we're going to do is, instead of it being y equals f of x, we're going to make it y plus delta y equals f of x plus delta x. And so what that means is basically, in our original equation, we're just going to replace every single x with x plus delta x. So x squared becomes x plus delta x squared. 2x becomes 2x plus delta x. And 7 obviously just stays a 7. So this is what we have. Now here we expand it. So we get x squared plus 2x times delta x squared plus 2x plus delta x plus 7. That's step 1. So step 2. Okay, so we have y on the left side, and we want to get rid of y from the left side. So we're going to subtract y from both sides. So on the left, we end up with just delta y. And on the right, we're going to subtract y. Here's the thing. We know what y is, right? Y is equal to x squared plus delta x plus 7. So we are going to subtract x squared plus delta x plus 7 from this. So these 2 lines here, this just means same as before. So all this, I didn't want to write it out again. So we have all this minus y, right? Because we subtracted y from both sides. Left side is just delta y now. And we know what y is equal to. So we have all this minus x squared plus delta x plus 7. So here I wrote it all out. And as you can see, a few things cancel out, right? So we have x squared here and minus x squared here. So x squared minus x squared, those cancel out. Here we have 2x. Here we have minus 2x. Those cancel out as well. Here we have plus 7. Here we have minus 7. And those also cancel out. And so we're left with just 2x times delta x plus delta x squared plus 2 delta x. So, by the way, once you finish this step 2, all your terms should have delta x, as far as I'm aware. If one of your terms doesn't include delta x, then I believe that means you made a mistake in your math, so you should go back and double check. So just keep that in mind. If you see that, go back, you probably just, made a small, math error somewhere. So that's the end of step 2. So far, so good. For step 3, we're going to divide both sides by delta x. So right now, left side is just delta y. We're going to divide by delta x. And we're also going to divide the right side by delta x. And simple way to do that, take each individual term and divide it by delta x. So right here, we have 2x times delta x. That's one term. We divide it by delta x. Here we have delta x squared divided by delta x. Here we have 2 delta x divided by delta x. And of course, as you can see, some things cancel out. So these two delta x's cancel out. Here we have delta x squared divided by delta x. So the squared cancels out with this down here. And here we have 2 delta x divided by delta x. Delta x's cancel out. Left with 2x plus delta x plus 2. So that's what we have here. So, and that's more or less our final answer. Now, when you get a delta question, what they specifically ask you to find might change. So, for instance, they might ask you to find the average slope from certain x values. So in this case, for example, from x1 to 1.1. In this case, what you need to do is you need to find delta x. And delta x is a difference between the 2 numbers they gave you. So they gave us 1 and 1.1. So delta x is equal to 1.1 minus 1, which is equal to 0.1. So you find that, and you would plug that in for delta x. So you plug in 0.1 for delta x. Wherever, in your equation it might look different, whatever it is, plug in the number you found for delta x. But more likely, they'll just say to find the slope at a specific point, in which case delta x is 0. So you would replace delta x with a 0. Now, also, they might either ask you to find the slope at a the slope of the tangent line. Sorry, that's what delta method is used for. It's to find the slope of the tangent line. They might ask you to find it at a general point, so just anywhere, or they might ask you to find it at a specific point. If they ask you to find it at a general point, then this is the final answer, right? 2x plus delta x plus 2. And because you can now plug in any x value to find the slope of the tangent line, right? So that's general, right? Plug in any x value, whatever you want, and you'll find the slope of the tangent line. If they give you a specific point, then now all you have to do is you just have to plug in the specific x value they gave you into your equation. So if they, for example, said, specific point 2, x equals 2, you would just plug in 2 for x, and you would find the answer. And that's it. That's the delta method. Pretty straightforward.